Hey everyone, I'm back with another House of the Dragon video. And today I'm ranking the top 5 acting performances in season 1, and there were a number of them. I thought the show did a great job of casting the younger actors and actresses. Some played key roles in the first season. And when you factor in the time skips, these characters had to sometimes be cast and then recast. Two that stood out in particular were Elliot Gritholt, who played Lucerys. He was so strong in the finale during that crucial scene at Storm's End. Then there was Leo Ashton, who played the younger version of Aemond, who was a bit of an outcast until that incredible scene where we saw him bond with Vagar. With those honorable mentions out of the way, let's get into the top 5. I struggled here at 5 between the choice of Eve Best, who plays Rhaenys, and Rhys Ifan, who plays Otto. Eve had a lot more to work with in the first season to show her range of acting abilities. We had her taking on the mentor role with Rhaenyra early on. We got to see the close bond she had with her husband. There was the tragedy of losing her children, and then the betrayal and anger she felt toward Rhaenyra, who she assumed had been behind Laenor's death. And then after being detained in her room after Viserys passed away, we had her big escape from King's Landing on Meleys. She was strong and independent, but yet her actions are all very measured and calculated. On the flip side, we have Rhys playing Otto, who did not have the opportunity to display as much range, but from the first episode, he was the clear manipulator, pushing his daughter to take advantage of Viserys' grief so that the High Towers could further increase their power. He later became the chief opponent to Viserys' plan of having Rhaenyra succeed to the throne. So he was the chief villain of the show. Sure, there's Kristen Cole, but he's a complete psychopath. Otto's role was crucial this season, and Rhys did an impeccable job of being this strong, persistent foil. And that's why I have to go with both Eve Best and Rhys Ifans in a tie at number 5. At number 4 is Olivia Cooke. She is one of the two in my top 5 that we only saw for half of the season. But from her first appearance as Alicent, when she demanded to immediately see Rhaenyra's newborn child, she really took over the role with authority. But she was not one-dimensional. In one moment, we can hate her for having Rhaenyra do something so despicable as to immediately bring her newborn. And then in the next, Olivia is convincing in showing the doubts Alicent had about some of what's going on. She's unsure of the worthiness of her own son Aegon in taking the throne. And then she still has some feelings for her friend Rhaenyra. And while she makes it clear to her father that she resents never being given a choice at a young age and being forced to marry the much older Viserys, we also see she has affection for her husband and remorse when Viserys dies. Olivia Cooke is able to fully display a complex array of emotions and helps us to better understand Alicent. Number 3 is an interesting one for me. When we first saw the early season trailers, I thought Emma Darcy had the screen presence to be Rhaenyra. But while those images stood out to me then, it's Millie Alcock who actually made the greatest impression as the younger version of Rhaenyra. She owned the role. She displayed the vulnerability, anger, and isolation that she felt after her father married her close friend. This led her into some poor decisions, but yet underneath it all, she still had the fortitude and tenacity that a future queen would need. This was demonstrated in one of her very best scenes, the arrival at Dragonstone to reclaim the egg from Daemon. And she also displayed foresight, cooperation, and magnanimity early on with her private marriage arrangement with Laenor. Millie also had some subtle differences that she displayed in Rhaenyra in that smaller time skip we saw between the ages of 15 and 18. I also felt that the chemistry between her and Matt Smith's Daemon was much better than what we've seen between him and Emma Darcy. Millie just has such an energy as Rhaenyra and brought the same complexity to the character that Olivia Cooke has portrayed in the older version of Alicent. I hope that Darcy rises to that level in season 2, but so far it's Millie Alcock who has really shined as Rhaenyra. And she also helped to draw the audience into the story during those very early episodes. At number 2 is Matt Smith as Daemon. Coming into the season, I was actually most concerned about Matt Smith in this role. Outwardly, at least, he didn't seem to display the same look as the Daemon we read about in Fire and Blood, who came across as a much larger and imposing individual. I felt at the time that Smith would need to bridge that gap with his acting. And boy, did he. Now he is Damon to me. He just immersed himself in the role. There's so many nonverbal moments where Smith is able to convey what Damon is feeling and thinking without saying a word. At the Stepstones, when he read that letter sent by his brother, you can just read Damon's mind by his expressions. And then there's the moment where he stopped Eamon dead in his tracks as he's harassing Jace and Lucerys at the final dinner that Viserys held. There's that look in his eyes, too, when he held Viserys' crown, which showed the realization and sadness of his brother's death. Matt Smith has been outstanding. On most any other cast, he would shine as a number one, but not this season. And that's because of the Emmy Award-worthy performance that was delivered by Paddy Considine. He just brought the audience through a range of emotions. Early on, you were angry at him for how he couldn't inform his wife, who he clearly loved, about what was happening when she was held down and the Maesters tried to save the baby. Her last moments were filled with fear and uncertainty, and he did nothing to help her. And then he displayed a frustrating weakness as he plodded along, making poor decisions, like alienating a key ally like Corlys by not heeding his advice about the Stepstones and refusing his offer to join their houses. And then he foolishly fell for Otto's plot as he pushed Alicent onto him. But then Viserys made a comeback. Despite having a son finally, he stuck to his decision to put Rhaenyra on the throne, even despite some of her more public transgressions, like the trip to Flea Bottom with Daemon and the affair with Harwin Strong that produced children outside of her marriage. Rhaenyra's plea to him when he was close to death to support her was answered. His love for his daughter pushed him to take the long walk to the throne one final time and come to her aid, just when she and her children were in real peril from the High Towers. And in that moment, he was never more a king. Paddy Considine adroitly portrayed a very flawed yet ultimately sympathetic man who was able to rise above his own weaknesses, make a stand, and in his final hours, also attempt to bring his shattered family together. His performance was the very best of the season. So that's my top 5. I'll be doing another video soon about the top moments from the season. I'm deciding between 7 of them, so I'm not sure if I'm going to cut those down to 5 or just go through all of them. Anyway, that's it for this one. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you're interested in more House of the Dragon content, listen to Caraxes and subscribe. I want to thank everyone for watching, and I'll see you soon.